We network across the globe, cause it's a global market in case you didn't know. And since we all about information flow, let me be the first one to welcome you to Tech Zone with Paul Amadeus Lane. Let's talk tech, cause technology changing the game. It's all good in the hood, it's everywhere. Now let's get to the show, cause we live on air. Yeah.
And as we come back to the Tech Zone on our third and final segment, I know a lot of people on social media right now, they're really giving me the business when it comes to the Pokemon. But I promise next week I'll be a little bit more, I guess, supportive of Pokemon next week. I promise, because I want to make everybody happy. I don't want nobody to be mad at me. And we also discussed some great things. But right now we're going to turn the attention to something really serious out there. And that comes to social media. We live in a world today where a lot of people have some strong opinions about a lot of things. And sometimes without thinking, we post, we tweet, we do a lot of things out there. And then before you know it, our timeline, our Twitter feed is blown up with a lot of replies, a lot of retweets. And before you know it, we've ignited a Twitter war. So how can we tweet responsibly or post responsibly? And also, this can have ramifications on our career. You know, I know many people out there have lost their jobs because of a tweet or a post that they put out there. But what can help us to navigate through this? Well, our next guest is going to show us how. We have Maria Matarelli joining us, the beautiful one. How are you doing, Maria?
I'm very good, Paul. Thank you.
Great to have you on, Maria. And Maria is the founder and president of Formula Inc., as well as a lot of things that she does. And Maria, when it comes to this subject of posting and tweeting, what are some things we really have to keep in mind?
Well, Paul, things are so different than they used to be because with the internet now, things are instant. People can see the things that you post and they stick out there. So what you put out there is going to be out there for a long time, if not forever. So we have to be a lot more careful on how we filter on what we put out there on the internet.
And Marie, you talk about a filter. And, I remember growing up, my parents always taught me, think before I speak. And I guess we get to change the mindset now to think before you tweet, because if not, things can be ignited. So, Maria, what do you think is really the mindset behind ones who get so passionate about something, put something out there that can be insensitive, and basically put their careers in jeopardy? What happens?
I think that people get very passionate about topics. People get excited. They react quickly, possibly without really thinking through what they're about to post. And it's really that impulse reaction. I think also people have their social media and they think, well, this is my social media. This is my voice. This is what I want to say. And they're not thinking about the repercussions. So I think when that happens, it's people responding fast and maybe not thinking through beyond the next 5 minutes of wanting to put their opinion or idea out there. It's very reactive.
Maria, you bring up a very good point because let's face it, I remember I got my first Facebook page about 10 years ago. And I don't think any of us thought that social media would be a part of our everyday life. We might have thought it'd just be something we do in our spare time. But I tell you right now, you're at a restaurant, social media. You're out spending time with your family, social media. Why has it become part of our everyday life?
I think that as technology has advanced, we have so much more capability than before. And one of the coolest things about that is being connected. So we can be connected to people. We can be connected to, in ways that we couldn't before without traveling. And for myself, I sometimes average 3 cities a week on the road doing consulting, leading training classes, or speaking at conferences. And I sometimes think, how did they do this before, the power of the internet, being able to connect with people to book these type of engagements? And I think back to the traveling salesman, right? So getting on the train with your briefcase, that's what I picture, thinking, we have to go old school. So now we have this privilege with technology where things are instant and we can do things and communicate in a way never before. And I think people have just fallen into that as, hey, this is great capability. Let's communicate instantly. So I think that's now becoming the way of life.
And Maria, when we look at social media, like when someone posts something or tweets, and let's say it has repercussions and they lose their jobs, what has been the mindset of some who may have lost their jobs because of that? Do they feel that if they had it to do all over again, would they push send, or will they not, or will they would just do what they did to get them fired?
It's really sad when you hear those stories because when we hear about people losing their jobs from, an abrasive tweet or a message or posting about being bored at work or something, I think part of that comes from maybe a feeling of being invincible or feeling, again, that ownership of your social media without thinking of the implications. People are thinking, here's how I feel and here's what I want to say without remembering who they're connected to, without thinking about what could have happened because of that. And so I think we just have to be mindful. I imagine a lot of those people are wishing they hadn't posted certain things. Some people say no press is bad press, but on a small scale, it can be when it impacts your lifestyle, your livelihood, your career. So, we have to just keep in mind, what is the purpose of social media? And what I always like to think, because I err to the side of caution on my social media. I use it, my livelihood, my brand is my livelihood. People see me, know who I am, hire me, want to bring me in to consult or speak. And what I post out there, people are reading. And I always think, what is it that I want other people to see or hear? And I do that little spot check before I post something. And I think that most people probably don't do that because they think of it as their page, their posts, not thinking about who might see it.
You're spot on because, what I've learned over the years is that if a tragedy happens, what I always do is I just say our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. I never try to take sides with anything because you bring up a very good point. Like me in my career, I do some speaking engagements. I go to various things, go to schools, give lectures sometimes. And if a potential company or organization is looking at me, a lot of people don't realize they check that timeline and they check those tweets because they don't want anything tarnishing their brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something that people are doing more and more today. And one of my favorite posts I've seen online recently was, because I saw this Facebook post, I've now fundamentally changed my political views, my religious stance, and other things that I've thought my whole life, said no one ever. Right. So we put out these passionate posts, but is it really going to sway someone in reading like 2 paragraphs or maybe 5 to 10 paragraphs of a rant that they're going to fundamentally change their beliefs? And the answer is probably not. It's probably only going to alienate people.
And you know what, Maria, I can't tell you over the last couple of weeks of how many, I want to say, spats that I looked at on Facebook, Twitter, of ones who were friends for many years. And it just broke up friendships. And not only that, and I look at that, I'm like, okay, what if you're in the business? What if you have a company and you take sides in anything? It can have not only ramifications for you personally, but also for your pocketbook too, because people really look at that stuff, especially potential advertisers and potential customers. They kind of look and see if you're going to be controversial or not.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that in some high profile cases over the last few years, right? So people that have endorsements, people that are dropped from those endorsements because, it is controversial. And again, I think it gets back to what is it that you're trying to convey? And I think we might need to take a step back as people and think about, is what I'm saying uplifting? Is what I'm saying going to help make the world a better place? Is it adding in a positive way versus detracting? And even looking at politics, it makes me so sad to see people that are divided. I want us to come together as a nation and think, hey, how can we together be better as people, right? How can we help uplift each other? And how can we be positive rather than tearing each other down? And that's one of the things I think that we forget about as we get so busy in our daily lives and we're out doing what we do. And then, someone posts something, we get enraged, react violently, or, type a big fast something back in response. And, is that uplifting? I don't think enough people spot check that or, check themselves before posting things.
And Maria, what kind of advice can you give to ones out there who run a business, who are in the public eye, who may send out something and they get out some negative reaction towards it? Should they try to justify what they're saying, or should they come out and say, if I offended anybody by my words, I apologize? What can help kind of de-escalate a situation?
I really like that second option there. If people try to justify or excuse it away, that doesn't show responsibility as a business, as a person that, has some influence. You have followers, you have people that are connected to you. I love that idea of standing up, taking ownership for it and saying, hey, here's exactly what you said. I apologize if I've offended anyone. Taking that responsibility, that can mean everything. Just yesterday, in fact, I was eating out here, and I'm in Las Vegas at the moment for a convention, and the waitress forgot my orange juice at breakfast. Very small, simple thing. And I've had this happen before. People forget a drink or something small, and it's like, oh, could I get that water? Could I get that orange juice? And they're like, oh, okay, you want orange juice. It's like, wait, you heard me say that. I'm pretty sure you heard me say that before. Don't act like I asked it the first time. And this lady just said, hey, I am so sorry. My fault. I completely forgot. Let me go get that for you. In fact, it's on the house. And I was like, oh my goodness. The manager came over to see if everything was fine. I was like, that was the best experience I've had. She's the best waiter I've had in a long time, all because she was responsible and accountable and owned up to a mistake. And I think that can leave such a better impression than trying to, sweep something under the rug, because people aren't stupid, right? If you say something and it has a negative output, they've then formed an opinion of you. But if you can man up or own up to that mistake, if you did say something that maybe wasn't in the best choice, that can come back and at least gain some respect. So I think that it's important to be socially responsible, especially on social media.
Maria, if I could turn red, I would turn red right now, because I was in a similar situation like that at a restaurant, and I didn't act so graciously as you did. What happened was a waitress took someone else's order before mine, and I'm like, you teach me a lesson right now. I appreciate it. I'm going to do that next time. I'm going to be nice and say, hey, you just forgot about that, because, I have a chip on my shoulder sometimes. I'm confined to a wheelchair. So, sometimes that ego gets the best of me. So what kind of advice can you give me if that happens again? I didn't go to social media. I didn't do that. So that was good. But I know in the community, people know who I am, and I don't want to, have enemies in the community. So what kind of advice can you give me to kick it down a notch in person?
Well, excellent question. It gets back to also that human connection. So, we have our own perspectives, our own self-centered view of the world in a way. And are we thinking about our interactions? Are we thinking about other people encountering us? And especially for yourself, it sounds like you might have taken the higher road by not posting things online that could have come off as a rant. People might think, oh, why was he saying that? What's going on? And it might have a negative fallout. In fact, several years ago, it kind of became a self-proclaimed food critic, the picky food critic, if you will. Very selective on the things I like to eat, mostly vegetarian, a little bit of pescatarian, a little fish and seafood, but the things that are selective. I was in a restaurant once and I had my iPad out and I was tweeting about this restaurant, and they had an amazing strawberry lemonade. And as I'm tweeting, the waiter walks behind me and I look over my shoulder and he's like, he saw me tweeting. He saw that it said the picky food critic. And he started freaking out. He was like, oh my gosh, we've got a food critic here. And I just kind of slowly looked over and I was like, did I just self-proclaim myself a food critic just because I created a Twitter account? And he started telling all the people he worked with, and he comes up very sincerely. He was like, how was the food? And I said, the strawberry lemonade is absolutely amazing. It just rocked my world. I am tweeting about that right now. Now, the salmon, however, was a little dry, and I'm not going to tweet that, but I just want to give you verbal feedback. And it was interesting because I think he appreciated that, and I think it made more of an impact to give the negative feedback person to person and give them a chance to correct something there, right? Rather than blast it out to the entire world. You had one shot, you're done. So I I think when we think about that human connection, how can we be a positive impact in the world, right? It gets back to, for me, I just want to enjoy life. I've spent years working, and you may have seen my most recent book, Workaholic, which is just, some think it was a cry for help that I had posted, but to write that. But, I've spent way too many years, even at a younger age, just not enjoying life and working way too much. And I feel like other people, when you think about it, they're just trying to get through their day. And it's really the mindset of how can we be a positive impact? How can we be a positive force? Because, do you want to be treated that way? And it might get back to the basics of treat people the way that you would like to be treated. And that can create a better society that can bring people together rather than divide them.
Absolutely. And Maria, thank you for my personal therapy session, because I needed that. That's my personal growth. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So you guys didn't know that I was going to get, have an intervention on the air, but Maria gave me an intervention. Thank you, Maria. I'm forever in your debt. But Maria, as we bring up our discussion to an end, what can we do on social media that can enhance our career or enhance our brand? Because we know that people out there are watching. What are some things that we can do to help it?
Just like you would dress for the job that you want, think about your social media as what you post and put out there can help craft your career, and it can help you with what you want to do next. So LinkedIn is one of the most professional networking sites. If you're on there, you'll list out things like on your resume. People can see what you've done, what your skills are. You can be endorsed or get testimonials from people you've worked with. And that can help you. That can help build your brand. That can help you build your portfolio of what you want to do next. And I think too often people think of social media as a megaphone, where it's just a way for you to speak louder about your thoughts. And it's really, you can use it a little bit more to your advantage. So if you think about yourself, even if you're just an employee somewhere, think about your brand. Think about, what is it you want as an end game in your career? And as you start to do things and talk about things and post things that are working you toward the job that you want, that can only help you.
That is so true. So, Maria, how can our listeners and viewers find out more information about you? Because we could have spent a whole hour of the show talking about just your experience and the things that you do. And I would love to have you back on again and to talk.
Yes, you can get a hold of me at mariamatarelli.com. And from there, you can contact me. If you can spell my name, you can find me on social media. So anywhere from Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of the top sites. And if you're interested in learning more about how to work a little bit less and enjoy life more, would love for people to check out workaholicbook.com. And it's a 12-step guide to having a life and getting things done. Thank you so much. Would love to be back.
Sometimes when I interview individuals, you're like speechless in a good way after the interview. And Maria Matarelli gave us some good advice when it comes to social media. And remember to use it responsibly. Use it to inspire and not to divide. And we also like to thank Alfredo Ramirez, who is the R&D manager, security scorecard, again, helping us to see ways that we can protect ourselves and our identity. And Selena Larson from the Daily Dot, journalist, giving us some great insight on Pokemon and those who are disabled. And don't forget, on our next week's show, we'll have a Comic-Con recap. We'll talk about the Women in Tech 2016 that happened. And it's going to be an amazing Fast Pass show, just as this one was too. And I said Fast Pass, I meant Fast Packed. So, well, until next time, remember, love yourself and love others, and inspire and not divide. And let's remember all those ones who are suffering in our thoughts and prayers, and let's bring a smile to their face. And until next time, this is the Tech Zone. Always connect with me on paulonwheels.com. And until next time, we'll see you soon.